Yeah, for this round. My name is Baraj, and I have two panelists with me that are going to introduce their names, and then the same basic rules applies, and we'll start our debate. So from my left hand side, who says it?
Okay, I'm Control Gabriel Panchol. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm now in someone.
Yeah, I'm going to time you, so it will tell you exactly how timing is supposed to be going on, and also in case you have questions or clarities, you will say them. And before we start, the first speakers from two sides will try to tell us the motions that they have, right?
Like the first minute is protected, and the last one, and you both you have 5 minutes. Like, do you hear that? I think everyone can hear that. If I ring the bell, it means that the first minute is done. So there you cannot raise. You can raise now. You can start POI minute now. Then I'm going to ring it like this, so that there will not be POI again. So I think we are clear. Yeah.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
As usual. I don't know in other rooms, right? So reply 2 minutes. In other room was 3? Yeah. Okay. But let me try to confirm for myself.
It's two to announce it.
It's 2, yeah. it's 2.
It was made clear. Reply speeches is 2 minutes. See, people are using like 5 minutes, right? So that is it. You can read the motion, one speaker, and you read the motion so that we confirm you have the same motion.
Start.
Read the motion, please.
Start.
This house believes that children should not be taught about SPLA. Children should be taught about SPLA liberation is strong.
Children should be taught about
Should
SPLM.
be told no.
Yeah.
No, it's not there. Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's the same motion. Go. We may have the first speaker from the affirmative. And before that, please, if you need to go out, you can go out when the speakers are not on the stage, right? If you need to stay, you stay before the speakers are on the stage. No clapping or no making applause to like distract us, right? So we can have the first speaker.
Are we good to go?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. My speech begins in 3, 2, 1. Panel resolve. This house believes that children should be taught about SPLA liberation struggle. Panel, expect a couple of things in my speech. 1, I'm going to make the key analysis of today's debate. 2, I'm going to characterize the motion, and lastly, I'm going to take you through our best case. But first, panel of judges, how do you view this SPLA liberation struggle? SPLA stands for Sudan People Liberation Army, which was formed in 1983 during the second Sudanese Civil War. But second, power judges, how do you view children? Children refers to young people, either male or female. To characterize the today's resolution, how do you view SPLA liberation struggle on outside of the world? We view it as the struggle by the SPLA from 1983 to 2005 to liberate South Sudan from marginalization and operation under Sudanese rule. Second to that, ladies and gentlemen, it is brutal, but it is a significant part of national history. 2, it has actually led to birth of South Sudan. Power judges, how do you view children outside of the world? We view children as inheritors of young nation. Those are still hiring from scars of war and seeking unity, identity, and direction. Second to that, power judges, these kids are tomorrow leaders, peace builders, and policy makers. Yet their understanding of where they come from is clouded by silence, disconnection, and misinformation. Second to that, power judges, what are the core ideas of today's debate? The motion evaluates either integrating SPLA liberation struggle into formal education is beneficial or harmful to children. So on to that, how do you view schooling outside of the world? School is not just a place for academic instruction, but it's a vehicle. It is a vehicle for identity, building, civic values, and historical awareness. Second to that, if school avoid uncomfortable truth, children grow up disconnected from their roots. Power judges, what are the things that are actually happening in the status quo currently? First, history is taught in school always in general terms such as colonialism, independent movement, African heroes, national identity. Second to that, in many schools, SPLA liberation struggle is not deeply taught or it is lightly taught to children. Second to that, children are learning basic history, chemistry, patriotism without going deeply into the complete or the details of SPLA war. Power judges, what are the problems that are currently in the status quo? 1, loss of national memory. 2, rise of misinformation and biased stories. Second to that, weak national identity and patriotism. Second to that, missed opportunity to teach values. This brings me to the SPLA liberation struggle. First, we are going to explain how does it teach courage, justice, and standing against oppression. Second to that, we are going to explain how does it build a strong and more united nation. First, power judges, the SPLA did not just all fight like to shoot guns, to end the suffering of the South Sudan. As we all know that, as we South Sudan, we were under the control of Sudan. Second to that, ladies and gentlemen, also to support, to end injustice, these teach children that freedom and justice are worth standing for. Second to that, teaching the value behind the struggle, not just name and battles, but to help children to stand up for what is right. Power judges, this lesson helps children on how they solve their problems. Second to that, how does it impact in today's debate? First, encourage culture of accountability and justice. Second to that, empower children to become leaders who speak against right. Power judges, we are in our side of the world, we understand that we're teaching these kids about the SPLA liberation struggle. It means that it's actually going to build them like how Dr. John Garema built the struggle, because we were mistreated by the Sudan, and he stand over our right, ladies and gentlemen. We think by teaching these kids, they are going to be the leaders who stand against what is wrong to them. Second to that, make children emotionally strong and they see courage, not just violence. Pano, how does it matter in today's debate? First, children need role model and moral lesson. But in this case, we have to teach children about how did our leaders struggle for our country, and also how long have they took. It means that if we teach this kid about the SPLA liberation struggle, it means that these kids are actually going to have the role model of them. Some will be like, I want to be like the Dr. John Garema because he struggled a lot, he went through a lot of pain, but he never gave up. It means that in this case, we are teaching kids, we are going to have the peace builders, the policy makers, and also we are going to have the better leaders in future. What is your POI?
How does teaching about violence teach children how to solve their problems?
Well, it is actually going to teach them how to solve their problem. We were under the control of Sudan, right? But Dr. John Garema stand against what is wrong. This way, if we teach kids, it means that if kids are mistreated, they will able to solve their problems. They stand against what is wrong. In this case, they can able to solve their problems alone. Second to that, power judges, with this, we raise generation that either repeat justice or ignore. It is teach the story of standing against oppression, give them moral roots, they grow into peace building actions. It means that by teaching these kids, they are going to grow up with peace. Because we have to know that we have to plant unity in the mind of children before they grow up. Because if they grow up without, by uniting them, it means that they are going to grow up with division. With this, I'm so proud to propose.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. Proposition's team doesn't hold accountable to the existing political status quo. There is political tension. Same SPLA, which is currently called SSPDF, has divided into SPLA-IO and IG. There is tribalism, ethnic tensions, corruption, communal conflict, and economic crisis. SPLA struggle as a military wing that had war-related content. The country status currently is in mess. Therefore, children are not ready to learn such content in good faith. Few things in my speech. First, some clashes. 2, we shall prove to you that teaching SPLA struggle to children is not relevant at the moment. And 3, we shall give you substantive material to engage with what they said. They say the political status quo is being taught about the SPLA liberation struggle. It is not necessary because SPLA liberation struggle was a war-related content. I don't know how it is necessary for children to be taught about it and that it helps in solving problems. Are you trying to tell us that using violence is a way of solving problems? Because it was a war-related content, even there will be underestimation at schools if it is going to be taught, because there will be divisions at school, people whose tribe mates were mentioned in the struggle. And they also said need moral lessons. Which moral lessons are you talking about? Are you going to explain to them how the SPLA liberation struggle was full of human rights abuses, sexual assaults, and so on? I think it's unnecessary. Panel. We are not denying the fact that children should learn about history and personalities in the struggle. South Sudan, a great nation owned by 64 tribes. Yeah, we gained independence through the SPLA liberation struggle. After independence, we have never been at ease. There is political tension, ethnic tensions, communal conflict, economic crisis, and so on. With all this here and there, we cannot add more fire into the existing fire. How? There will be further divisions and tribalism at school. Why? Some tribes will not feel comfortable with the content since there will be bullying and estimation by pupils whose tribe mates appeared in the history. I may take your point. Yes, because history. And then now they're mentioning some tribes. There will be underestimation, there will be bullying because now they will be like, look at this content here. Where are your names? Did you see anyone about your tribe that is here? I think that will cause division among the pupils. Secondly, SPLA liberation struggle was a military wing. As we mentioned in our characterization, it was full of human rights abuses, sexual assault, massive killing, and other war-related crimes. As children, this content would obviously be irrelevant to learn. Why? We think that learning is a process. We believe that the SPLA liberation struggle should be taught in secondary when we are able to handle war-related content. We think this is an incitement and threat to the upcoming generation. The Israel and Palestine war is a generational war. Since our 20th century, what is happening in Israel and Palestine is that when a child is at 5, 6, or 7 years, they may hide something like a doll or any playing material. When the child cries, they could tell him or her that yours is taken by the Palestinians or Israelites. When you grow up, you will take your gun and go there that you're going to bring it back. That is how war is carried forward from generation to generation. I may take your point.
You'll be aware of how your country struggle.
Because the SPL liberation struggle, it was full of human rights abuses. What are you trying to teach us? Are you trying to teach us how it was full of human rights abuses, sexual assault, massive killing? What are you teaching us? Just causing for psychological harm. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing the same tribal mindset in South Sudan. If SPLA liberation struggle is taught to children, it will be like intensifying the current existing problem. What are we benefiting here if SPLA liberation struggle is not taught to children? First, we shall have attained maximum peace in the country by killing tribalism, corruption, political tension, communal conflict, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not against teaching liberation struggle, but we are saying that this content to children that will even generate and develop other factors like hatred, division among children at school, marginalization, and bullying is what we are against. We need South Sudan to be a united nation, free from rivalry, ethnic tensions, and communal conflict. I may take your point.
No, protected time. Protected time.
Oh. SPLA liberation struggle is already there in social studies in P7 and P8. That explained briefly of what it was about. Now, teaching it in details to children will not earn us commercial values, but rather escalating the current status quo. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, teaching about the SPLA liberation struggle is necessary because it is just full of human rights abuses and sexual assault and other war-related crimes. We are proud to oppose.
Resolve. This House believes that children should be taught about SPLA liberation struggle. A couple of things in my speech. First, I'm going to rebuttal. Second, I'm going to review. And third, I'm going to extend on our points of argument. First, to begin rebuttal, the team opposition talked of, they said children are not ready to learn because the country is in a mess. But we believe that if the country is in a mess, then the children are the people to come and make the country well. So we have to teach them unity. We have to teach them how our people united just to get their independence. They also say that children should be taught in secondary school. But we believe that if we want a bright future, then we have to start planting unity in the head of our minds. In the head of our children. So we have to start telling them that unity is important, but unity is important. So for our future to be bright, we have to be united. And by telling them that we have to teach them how our people united to get our independence. They also say that SPLA was full of corruption, tribalism, and political tension. So what are you trying to teach children? Are you trying to teach them corruption? So are you even trying to say that we got our independence through corruption or tribalism? We believe that SPLA was not full of all these things, but they united themselves to be one identity, one South Sudan, and fought against the other people, and that's why we won. So we believe that it was not full of corruption, but it was full of peace and unity. They combined themselves to be one identity, and they fought, and that's why they won. Now, the reasons why we think children should be taught about SPLA liberation struggle. First, why we believe that it teaches courage. We told in our first speech that it teaches courage, justice, and standing against oppression. We just said that it will empower children. It will empower children who become leaders who stand up for wrong. It will teach children that whenever there's a problem, you have to stand up. That we are suffering, we are not given our freedom. So our leaders have to stand up for that because it was something wrong. So if we teach children, they'll be like, if there's injustice, corruption, they have to stand up for that thing. So it will empower good leaders for the future. We also said it leads to children need role model and role lessons. Children need to be like, I want to be like this person. By teaching them, they will see how our leaders, like how John Garang struggled. He won a lot of pain and sacrifices, but he did not give up just for us to get our independence. So it will teach and encourage children to become good leaders. They will be like, I want to become like Dr. John Garang, because when there's something, I have to I have to take all these things for us to get our freedom. Now, to the second one, why we believe that it's created a stronger and more united nation. Pano, we believe that many trust their own hand in SPLA struggle. If we teach that, children will see that our future depends on unity, not tribalism. It will show the children that for us to have a bright future, we have to be united, but we don't have to take tribalism. We have to see ourselves as South Sudanese own, because we believe that children who learn shared stories grow up seeing others as brothers, not enemies. They learn that unity wants freedom, not division. Now, it will teach the children that our people were not divided, our people made themselves to be one, and that's why they want freedom. That's why we are free now, because our people united themselves. Also, the impact of this point is that it reduces tribal prejudice and stereotype. Also, it also builds national identity across communities. But even thirdly, it creates a generation ready to cooperate for peace, not fight over identities. To teach the children that the children will be cooperating for peace, because they will know that they have one identity and they are one. They will know that all our people united, all other people united, and that's why we got our independence. Yes, what's your point?
How teaching about SPLA promote peace when war is literally violent division?
Okay, we believe that it leads to peace, because when you teach children that some people were slaughtered, like some people died, some people were burned, some people even used to drink urine for them to survive. It will bring peace, because these children will be like, if this is what our people went through, then we don't have to go through. Also, our people through all this pain, they united and they did not give up. So this is how to teach peace for these children, because they'll be united. Now we believe that it matters in our side, because South Sudan suffers when tribes distrust each other. If we want a peaceful future, we must start planting unity in the minds of children. We must start telling these children that unity is good for them to grow up while united. But if we don't teach them, which means the children will grow up, they'll grow up divided, and there will be no peace in the future. We also believe that shared stories build shared identity, and that's the root of national peace. We believe that when we share these stories, we'll share the children that we have one identity, and we are all South Sudanese. With this, I beg to raise my case.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. The proposition side had a contradiction in their speech. The first speaker came and said that we should teach about SPLA, but also said that when we teach children about the violence of the SPLA, it will teach them how to solve their solutions. Expect this from my speech. I will clash with what they said and substantive argument. When they say they'll teach children about the violence of the SPLA and that they will teach children about how to solve their problems, they are essentially saying that violence is the answer. And when you say violence is the answer to problems, you are promoting a cycle of violence, of which we will repeat another civil war in South Sudan, which contradicts what was said by their second speaker, saying that it will promote peace. I don't know what is happening there. Also, to refute what they said it creates peace builders and policy makers. The SPLA liberation struggle is marred by ethnic division, political instability, communal conflicts, and the rest. When you teach children who are not having the capacity to understand the liberation struggle, they will be taught, okay, violence is the answer. I will solve my problems using violence, which will be against what we are for. They also said that it will end injustice. It will not end injustice, but rather it will remind us of the injustice that happened in the past. Why? Because the SPLA liberation struggle was about marginalization, conflict, and these things. When you teach children about these things, they will be reminded of their enemies. What will they do? They go and fight, which is against unity, which contradicts what they have said. Also, it teaches them a lot.
Do you believe that when something pains you, it will encourage you?
When something it can be a negative factor for motivation. When you use pain as a motivation, you will bring negative effects to the society. As I said, when you say violence is the solution, you are saying that we are going to violate the rights of others. Is that what you are saying in your speech? I believe not. They also said that it plants unity. It will not plant unity, but rather it will remind us of what separated us in the past, what made us different from the others. They also said that the SPLA liberation struggle was full of peace and unity. War literally means the absence of peace within an area. How can war bring about peace and unity? That contradicts their team stance while promoting our team stance. They also said that will empower children. why would children need to be empowered at such a tender age? If they are taught about violence, they'll grow up to be leaders that promote violence. When you promote violence, you promote more cycles of violence. What will happen? We have more civil wars, more conflict. The current status quo will be exacerbated. The problems in our country will become worse. They also said that they'll be taught about the drinking of urine and how it promoted peace. How does teaching about drinking of urine promote peace? That is a question that needs an affirmative answer. To my substantive argument, panel, the proposition side have failed to engage with what we said. We said that the issues that we have in the current status quo are ethnic division, communal conflicts, tribal divisions, and the rest. While they're saying that, those are the effects of not teaching aloud.
You are talking about the problems in the status quo. What is your main point of argument?
Our main point of argument is that we should not teach about SPLA. Why? Because it will exacerbate issues that are currently existing in the status quo. Education for young children would be better if we were to teach them about peace building, national unity, and the shared cultural heritage that they have. Then this contest that would instill hatred and division among them. Prioritizing themes like reconciliation and cooperation and tolerance could be more constructive for a long-term nation building. We should not teach about SPLA, but we should teach about unity, cooperation, and peace building. Panel, in our first seat, he said that there is already teaching of SPLA content.
Do you believe that our poor were united and that's why they want freedom?
Repeat your
Do
question.
you believe that our poor were united and that's why they want freedom?
People were not united during the time of SPLA. There were ethnic divisions. And if we teach about SPLA currently, they will remind us of those divisions. What will happen? Another cycle of violence. Panel, as we said in our first speech, there's already content of the SPLA liberation struggle and P7PA. What are we against? We are against diving deeper into the SPLA struggle. Why? Because there are no benefits when you teach this to the people. There will be more division and hatred that would arise in our country. I am proud to oppose.
The room is settled, then I would like to start in 3, 2, 1, check. Panel. In every story, there are always essential lessons learned from the story. The SPLA has ends and objectives. We think these are the main essential things that children will be learning when we teach them about the SPLA liberation struggle. Now, panel, that was just for clarification. Expect these 3 things in my speech. I'm going to make a response to that side of the house. Secondly, I'm going to make an extension of what in case. But even thirdly, I'm going to make a comparative analysis where I'm going to use side of the house reserves a win today's debate. But first, I respond to that side of the house. They come and they were telling us that SPLA was full of violence, sexual immorality, and also about killings. They were telling us that this one will lead to division. But we tell you that, yes, we don't deny the fact it was full of violence, but you know that we are going to teach children what they really learned from this story. For example, if it was having violence, South Sudanese were not mistreated well. And this is why the leaders united themselves and fought against the Sudan army. We think that children are going to learn a lesson that when you are being mistreated, you really have to stand up for that thing. You don't have to keep quiet when your rights are not considered. We think this is going to really teach children about standing against oppression. But even secondly, they continue telling us that it leads to division among children, whereby it is going to teach them and remind them about the division, about the communal fights again. But I think that in this case, this is how the teachers will be narrating the story. This is what is going to create a division among peoples. For example, if this story is being told to pupils by a teacher from where, that teacher may favor the tribe and may talk about bad things of the tribe. We think this one is what is going to lead to the division. But if they are going to be qualified teachers that will be delivering the true story, we think that outside of the house it will lead to division. But even thirdly, they continued and they said that it will remind children of their enemies. But they were telling us that children are going to know that Sudanese are the one mistreating them. But in this case, when you look at the story of SPLA liberation struggle, in 2005, a peace agreement was signed between South Sudan and Sudan. Now, we think in this case, children may ask, what happened at the end of the day? But the teacher will be able to tell them that people united themselves and the people signed for a peace agreement. We think in this case, it will not remind children of their enemies. But even further, they continue on that and were telling us that they are telling us that war cannot teach unity. But in this case, we know for now we are being recognized as South Sudanese. It is because the leaders united themselves. It was not only John Garang that fought for the independence of South Sudan, but there are very many leaders that contributed. Now I think that children are going to learn what we really call unity among themselves, and they will be like, now one of them, if one of us is not there, we cannot really do things better. But even secondly, this one is going to teach, children are going to be able to pick for themselves role models. You may find a child will be saying that, I want to be like John Garang, I want to be like Daniel. Now, you think that in this case, your children are really going to learn, are going to pick for themselves role models and to will even teach unity. But even fifthly, they were telling us that people, that we asked them a question, do you believe that leaders united themselves? And they're telling us that people were not united. But in this case, that it was not only John Garang that fought for the independence of South Sudan, as we all know it in this room here. There were a lot of people that contributed to the independence of South Sudan. Now, in this case, we think that children will learn unity. Now, before I go further, I would like to take this point.
Are you denying the fact that South Sudan's current state of affairs are caused by past grievances from the SPLA liberation struggle?
Yes. Now, the SPLA liberation struggle it was not like the one of last time. Last time people were having essential things that can be learned from it. But now the current leaders are the ones that are changing it, and this is why we can able to learn bad things from it. Now, to make an example in our team case, in our first speech we said that it teaches courage, justice, and standing against oppression. But I will tell you that when you're not given the right as a person, when your rights are not considered, you really have to stand up. As our leaders, as our forefather leaders against they did against the government of South Sudan, they really united themselves, and that's why they fought for the country. Now, panel, today we had an important class. Well, we think that use unity post on our side of the house, because we had an important class which was unity. Now, I think that host more on side of the house, because when you're going to teach children about how the leaders united themselves, this is really going to create unity among themselves, and children are going to be united. Now, we think this debate goes outside of the house, because when you look at our points of argument hosts more than theirs. In our first, we say that it builds a stronger and more. In our first point, we say that it teaches courage, justice, and standing against oppression. But I will tell you that freedom and justice are what you should stand up for, and this is a lesson that children can learn. While in that first speech they said that it is going to lead to division. But I'll tell you, it is how the teachers will be narrating the story, it's what going to lead to division. But even secondly, on our side of the house, we say it teaches courage, it builds a stronger and more united nation. Whereby I will tell you that children are going to learn about unity. But the report of us saying that it will lead to division. Whereby we told them that it will not lead to division, but it's how the teachers will be narrating the stories what will lead to division. Now in this case, we think our points hold more in this debate, and we deserve to win this debate. Now, I'm proud to oppose and I raise our case. I'm proud to propose and I raise our case. Thanks.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the proposition side had a contradiction in their first speech. What did they tell you? They talked about misinformation. And if you're talking about misinformation, if the information is going to be messed up, why should we have to teach about SPLA liberation struggle? They had a contradiction in their speech, of which they were saying that the SPLA was having unity. Which unity? Unity comes in when you are now united. And why were they having things such as at Labara in this side here? That one, a man and a woman, when they get them inside, the man will be said at Labara, the man should come out, then another man goes and sleep with your wife. How would that be effective? Are those the things that you're saying that we should teach to children? No. Now, this is a world that does not hold accountable to the existing problem in the status quo. Why? They do not have a vision and a mission. Expect 3 things in my speech. First, I would be tackling 2 points of clashes. Second, I would engage with what they say. And third, I would weigh the debate. Now, point of clashes. A, couple of responses here. A, role models, couple of responses here. Why should we have to be focused on role models, yet we have not solved our current status? What is our current status? This is the things that are happening now, like what happened recently, yesterday in Warab State. Warab State and Unity State were announced as the state of emergency. Why? Those are tribal conflicts and communal conflicts, because when we teach the SPLA liberation struggle, we shall add more fire on the existing fire, because it is going to be problematic. To engage with what they say, this is a world that does not understand, not know where they are going, where they're standing, and where they're coming from. They say that building of children. When we resort to teach children about SPLA liberation struggle, what do you think will come to their mind? They will be saying that this guy was killed by these people, so I have to revenge. I have to revenge my great-parents. So that is creating another conflict between us and our enemies. They also talked about patriotism. How will patriotism be if we teach about the SPLA liberation struggle? Because we know that we have 64 tribes, and other tribes during that time, they were having conflicts. When we teach them and we go deep into the history, it will give us some tribes that have been having communal conflict. That will bring it to their mind and stick that we were having this with this, so we have to create another conflict because we are children. They also talked about, did the SPLA liberate by corruption and communal conflict? So, if they have not liberated with communal conflicts and corruption, and why are they still here? Why are they still here? These things would have finished the time when they were in the bush. These things of corruption, tribal lines, and communal conflict. I may take your point.
Do you believe that the peace between South Sudan and Sudan was made in 2005?
If the peace was made, okay, why are you teaching again about the SPLA liberation struggle? Why should we have to teach about it again? Because we have made peace, there's nothing to teach about it because it will remind us of our enemies. Now, they also talked about moral rules. Are these the rules which were said in the bush that when you get an Arab, you kill? Are these the rules that we are going to teach to children? All children are supposed to be learning about how a mountain is formed, and I may take your point.
No, it is protected.
Protected time.
Okay. Are these the rules in the bush that we are coming to teach children? We are not coming to teach them anything new. The things that are new are things in the current state affairs. What are the things in the current state affairs? These are corruption, political tension, tribal lines, and that are some things which can later be ineffective if they grow up. When children start to have these things of conflicts and this one, they may not be effective. Why? When you teach them about other things, they will start to have this and this were done by our great parents, so let us leave them. To weigh the debate, a team that would win this debate is a team that their arguments were logical, practical, and principled, and also rooted in real life. In our world, we provided substantive materials that would later be effective if we do not teach about SPLA liberation struggle. This debate is all about education, real life education. In their first speech, they talked about national identity. But then we told them in our first speech that it leads to war-related content. In their second speech, they talked about unity. But then we told them in our second speech that it leads to division and hatred. Ladies and gentlemen, it is only a foolish cat that will eat a pregnant rat. I will beg to my case.
Liberalized speeches, please.
Open to the press. Yeah, open one. My speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the proposition side are losing today's debate. Why? They failed to be held accountable to the current issues in the status quo. Panel, today's debate was about the effect of teaching about the SPLA liberation struggle to children in schools. A side that will win this debate is a side that gave arguments that were logical, practical, pragmatic, and rooted in real-world examples. In our first speech, we came and told them why we shouldn't teach about SPLA and how it affects children, which answered their concerns about the lack of knowledge age when we don't teach about the SPLA. As well as that, in their second speech, they came and said that it will bring unity. We proved to them that, why? First, teaching about the SPLA liberation struggle will not bring about unity but more division. And second, how it is not practical and will not be able to be practiced in schools. As well as that, in their first and third speeches, they had contradictions. That third speaker came and said that a teacher who's a NWER may have bias when teaching about the SPLA. And that is the reason why we tell you that we should not be teaching about the SPLA. In their first speech, they said that we shall teach children about violence as the solution to the problem. When you teach about violence, you are teaching children that they will solve their problems through means of force, which will cause more cycles of violence in South Sudan. They also failed to engage with what we said. We told them that we could not teach about SPLA. Why? It will remind us of our history of trauma, human rights abuses, and genocide, which is why we cannot teach these things to children. They asked questions and we answered them adequately. While the questions we asked them were not answered adequately and were not answered based on the meaning of the question. For those following reasons, the opposition side are winning today's debate. I oppose.
3, 2, 1. Panel, I'm here for reply speech to tell the reason why, as with the team, affirmative are winning the today's debate, and the reason why the other side are losing the today's debate. Panel, the other side of the wall are taking the today's debate to be personal, of which they were using abusive word. We think we are arguing today's debate, we are not fighting. Second to that, power judges, the other side of the wall are losing the today's debate because they're just debating without solving the problems that are in the status quo currently. 1, we tell them we have loss of natural memory. 2, we tell them that we have misinformation, that people can get misinformation about the things of SPLA. We have to teach children. They fail to come up with the solution. It means they are losing. 2, power judges, we also say that missed opportunity to teach values. Also, children are going to miss opportunities of teaching them about the things of SPLA. They fail to come up with solutions. Second to that, power judges, we have them a lot of questions, but they fail to answer. First, we tell them that, are you aware that our people unite themselves and they want freedom? They say that, no, they do not unite themselves. But we think that one person cannot able to win something less than human. 64 tribes that are the one who gather themselves and they want our freedom as we are now South Sudanese. Second to that, we also ask them a question that if something pain will encourage you, they tell us that it will affect you. Of which they did not answer us because if you learn about something that have actually pain someone, it is going to encourage you. Second to that, the fail to tell us the things that they are going to achieve at the end of the day, because you can't just debate without anything that they are going to achieve. First, we tell them that we are going to build a stronger and more united nation. That is what we are going to achieve at the end of the day. Second to that, we tell them that we are going to achieve in our side of the world, we are going to achieve clear historical memory for the children. Second to that, we also inform them that we are going to achieve what you call unity. One of the point of life for today's debate is unity. Which side is actually going to win unity? I think it's our side, because we are going to teach children about how our 64 people, how our 64 tribes unite themselves and they fight for our freedom. It means that children are going to learn that, yes, unity is the basis whereby we can win something. But for them, they are going to cause what we call division. Because now we are having a lot of misinformation, but they fail to solve the problems. 2, point of the other side of the world are losing the today's. Finish. With this, I beg to phrase my case.
Okay. This was a hot round, and I would like all of you to grade yourself and for the great job done, right? It was really wonderful. I believe also the audience enjoyed. Great. Evaluate. Grade yourself and give us 5 minutes to evaluate. Okay. I appreciate all of you for the great round. This was really one of the toughest rounds that have judged in this debate, and maybe there will be more toughest rounds, right? As I said before, my name is Baraj, and I'm the chair for this round, right? First, I'll give general feedback, then I will make a call which side wins the debate, then I'll give reasons why I think that side wins the debate, right? And then now if you have a question, that's when you can ask. If you don't, then it's fine. Now, on general feedback, now that is firstly, as I said, you were all great speakers, you knew your speaker roles and how to approach motion either pragmatically or also in principle aspect, right? But now on general feedback, in case you're going to dab the round, right? Now try clearly to see what is the incentive of doing a particular thing at that particular time, right? That is to say, if I am supposed to be like if I'm supposed to attend to school, what could be its importance either by now or it later at the future, right? That is making to say, if you have a principle of choice, choosing to do something at that particular time, how does it become important later if you do it in the future, right? That is like in terms of analogies if you're doing that. And all in all, your rebuttals were clear, the engagement was good. And another advice is that as a speaker, try to limit the kind of POIs that you take. Many of you were taking more than 3 POIs, right? If you know that you have a lot to say, take 2 POIs as maximum. Judges will not penalize you whether you take more POIs or you take less POIs, right? They just need to see how engageful you are and how creative you are whenever you are tackling these POIs, right? So it is advisable to take maybe 2 or 1, right? Because taking many will leave out the entire content that you have prepared before, making you say less things. And remember, everything that you're saying, it is supposed to be recorded, right? So that is on case of POIs. And now on which side wins the debate, right? Well, as I'll say, this was a unanimous vote, right? That is to say, all the 3 judges voted for one side, right? And the side that wins this debate today is the side that debates in the opposition side. And here are reasons why. Now, there were 3 main clashes in this debate. The first clash was on either does teaching SPLA struggle promote peace and unity? And secondly, how is it important for young people to learn it at their future endurance, right? And also lastly, that was on the status quo. What are the problems that are happening in the status quo? And how does the team affirmative opposition side win this today's debate on that matrix, right? Now, on peace and unity. Team affirmative side said because SPLA struggle was mainly because people came together through unity, and through the unity that they have come together, teaching individuals about that will remind them that your grandfathers or people that fought for your country will have unity amongst yourself, right? And that means they will consult and try to have unity amongst themselves, right? The response from this side were pretty strong. They told you that if you teach people about SPLA, on the analogy of saying that maybe not all the 64 tribes of South Sudan participated in the SPLA struggle, right? That is to say, individuals will take it on their own personal basis of saying if it was the majority were Nuer, the Nuer people in that particular class will think that they were the one responsible for the unity, for the liberations of South Sudan. That was the analogy that they brought. Also, secondly, they also told you on the basis on how it reminds people about the hatred and things that they have, right? We believe like individuals could maybe having their parents or relatives that were killed in the past, right? Now, teaching them deeply on what happens about the SPLM struggle could remind them and give them that sense and intensity of them having the heart of revenge, right? That is to say, if you now hear very well that during the SPLM struggle, a particular Arab man or a particular people killed your parents, there's going to be like a higher incentive that you need to revenge, right? And then at that premise, unity is not going to be maintained, right? Also, they clearly move forward and make a flag and clarification to you guys that these SPLM bases are being taught in primary school, things like history and things like that, right? And also telling you on a basis that children may not have the condensity to grasp this information either in positive mindset. And I think the first speaker gave an alternative of saying that it would be important to teach them at secondary level. That is to say, they will have like the capability to at least perceive this content in a positive way, right? And I think that's how they win that clash of unity and peace from your side. Like, I expected a lot of mechanization, like physically, how could that struggle not remind people about the things that they said, like the Bush rules and other things, right? I think it's how they crash. Now, on idea, which one is better for the status quo? Opposition side tells you 3 things, that there are problems currently in the status quo. They told you that there's ethnical problems, there's a tribalism that is happening among themselves, and also lastly, there are things to do like civil war and all these things, right? Now, they told you that if you teach people about SPLA, there is a higher incentive that at the end, individuals will be like reminded on how these tribal conflicts are happening in case of giving them a way to be like a peaceful mean, right? That is to say, when they gave you like teaching a young person that a way to stand up for what is right could be violence, give them like that mindset of doing more violence in the future, right? That means that the solution you people are bringing is not solving the status quo problem, right? They say that they should teach them things that could be like more impactful to what is happening or what is relative to what is happening currently, right? That is to say, you teach them about either economic problems that are happening, you teach them about either the financial instability and all those kind of things to at least remind them, right? And also reminding you that SPLA struggle is being taught, but not deeply, right? Now the problems come in when they tell you that they need this thing to be taught deeply on that deeper aspect, right? Now lastly, on which one? How could this thing have an impact on the future? This has a, you have already submitted? Okay. On the strategic flow, by the way, on the strategic flow, all the teams were great on the strategic flow, right? But now, how does this thing become an incentive for people? The main point that you grasped to as the proposition side, was the fact that it is going to create role models for individuals. That is to say, if an individual learns about the Adjudication and is the struggle and things that they have been doing, there's a high incentive that you are going to become two role models, right? Two reasons why I think these things was taken out by the affirmative opposition. They told you that these things are already being taught. Even the first speaker made that flag that SPLA struggle is being taught, but not deeply, right? That is to say, there is a high incentive individuals could know about the Adjudication and things that they have been doing, right? That is like in the part of role model. Secondly, they told you that these role models were solving things using violent means, right? That is to say, if an individual now learn that a person is stand up for something using violent means or things that go against the human right, there is a high incentive that children are also going to use violent means, but at least stand up for things that are also wrong, right? Like that was the engagement on the side of like role models, and I think that's how they win that clash. Those were the three clashes I identified in this today's debate, and that's why I think team opposition, why we think team opposition wins this today's debate. All in all, it was a tough debate.